Hey there YouTube, how's it going? Nerdy Narwhal here, and I'm back again today for another action figure review. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at something a lot different for the channel. I'm going to be taking a look at a lower end action figure, but still one from probably my favorite line right now that's producing figures for under 40 bucks. And that is going to be the Neca Dungeons and Dragons Elkhorn from their D&D line. This line is my absolute favorite thing in figures right now that you can find at retail, and this might just be my favorite piece that they've done. So I wanted to come on here and at least gush about it for a little bit. Now, I'm reviewing in a different location than I usually do today. I hope that doesn't affect the quality of the video too much. I figured it might be an okay trade-off, as I'm not looking at a figure that costs hundreds of dollars today, but one that you could probably find at your local Target. So anyways, without further ado, let's dive in and check out this figure. First of all, I'm going to come in nice and close and just get a look at the aesthetics of this guy. And it's absolutely perfect. It matches in with the rest of the Neca Dungeons and Dragons line, and we'll do a comparison here at the end. But that just looks like your standard stereotypical fantasy dwarf. He's gonna go mine for some gems. There's some bluing in the beard, which I really appreciate them doing, as that brings out a lot of the texture, as opposed to if they had done flat black, or they could have done a gray, I guess, but that would have made him look like a bit older of a character, which I don't necessarily think they were going for. So that's the figure right there. Basically how I'm gonna have him pose on the shelf next to the other D&D guys. And it looks great. Aesthetics nailed. The color palette has definitely been updated from the original action figures that these guys are all based on, and I do appreciate Neca doing that. It looks like they're going back through now and doing some re-releases of characters in that classic palette, but that might not be for me. I like this, and I think it helps this figure blend in better with other action figure lines if that's what you're going to do. All right, let's talk about accessories real quick, or as quickly as we can at least, because this guy comes with a ton. First of all, in this, in this little tiny box here, there it is, full box, you get a ton of stuff, and it makes unboxing it a bunch of fun because it's just packed to the brim in that clamshell with accessories coming out the wazoo. First of all, let's talk about the hands. He's going to come with one hand for the left that looks like it's made for pulling a bow or arrow. I'm not sure exactly. It's more or less just a reskin of the hand that they used for their little tiny orc guy. Maybe it's for holding this booze bottle. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But it's a good little hand, and it offers a little bit of variance to the rest of them, which are basically just going to be a tight gripping hand for the left. You get that. You have two fisted hands, which he comes wearing out of the box, a right and a left. And you get a wider gripping hand for the right. And on the figure right now, I have two other gripping hands for the right and the left, so that he can hold those accessories. The only thing it doesn't come with, which I think it would have been great if it did, is a couple of opened or relaxed hands, but it didn't, and I'm really just kind of fine with that. The next accessory you're going to get is a heartstone. Looks pretty good. You can kind of see how it's molded or connected in there, which isn't super great. It seems to be a bit better from this side, so I'll probably have it displayed facing that way. And the next you get is some gems there, because what dwarf doesn't go into the mines mining for gems? I love that. You also get this booze bottle here, which is a great accessory. I know most of the dwarves that I've played in D&D have been drinkers, So that's a wonderful little accessory there, but maybe he's just a hard-working man. Maybe it's full of soup. Then you get this great big two-handed axe, really reminiscent of a dwarf like Gimli or something like that. Swing, swing. Awesome. Then you're going to get this gigantic warhammer. Similar again to something that you would see a brawny fantasy dwarf wielding. And the last accessory that he comes with, which I do not have displayed on the figure, is actually an alternative head portrait. And this one is just as well done as the one that's on him. It is, however, emoting, see if I can get that to focus, there we go, emoting a good deal more than the one he's currently wearing. Again, though, it looks wonderful, and if I decide to change up the display from something static into something a bit more dynamic, I'll probably stick that on the figure. Let's see if I can get in maybe even just a little bit closer so you can see the fantastic detail that Neca's managed to put in to this head sculpt. Do a little zoom action. There we go. Look at those teeth. Each one neatly painted. Even some details on the tongue and the lips. It all looks wet. The eyes look wet. The skin has texture. It's not flat or bland. Neca really knocked it out of the park. Like, it's hard for me to believe that something like this came from a factory and cost 35 bucks. There's a mole on his cheek. I'm paying a lot of money for 6-scale figures, and I'll be damned if some of the head sculpts don't look worse than this. I just cannot believe how far technology has come in the last few years to where we can get something of this quality on a supermarket shelf. That's absurd. Anyways, zooming back now, let's talk about the accessories that I currently have displayed on the figure. So I'm going to bring him a little bit closer to me, and first we'll pop out this. I love it. That's a great little warhammer, and it has the spike on the back. This is pretty accurate to the warhammer that I actually used when I first fell in love with D&D. I was playing Baldur's Gate right when it released for iOS, and the first character I created was a brawny dwarf named Dospos. And as soon as I got one of these warhammers for him, you better darn believe that I gave it to him, and that's what I used throughout the whole game. So that's awesome. It looks good. You can see that there's no flat painting going in on this figure at all. Everything is weathered. Everything is some black dry brushing on it. There's details all throughout, fine and minute. It's just an absolutely outstanding piece. Again, I'm gushing about it. He's next going to come with this torch. And again, all the detail in the wood is brought out by some clever dry brushing. Looks like a real stick. The flame does not seem like it wants to come off, and that's okay, because I'd probably never take it off anyways. But that looks really good. That's a good dynamic accessory for him to have as he's crawling around in dungeons. Next, he's going to come with this. Oh, it's in there real tight. There we go. He's going to come with this dagger, which fits into that sheath very tightly. You're not going to lose that. It's not going to fall out ever. Cool little accessory. One that's nice to just sort of have on the figure, but not necessarily have him displayed with. I'm going to just pop this whole thing off so you can see how that attaches to the backpack. There's his sword and the scabbard for it. And that's just going to plug into those two holes right there on the backpack very easily. And I like to sling the shield over it, so I'll take the sword out first. There we go. Off comes the shield. Let's get a look at that sword. Refocus, camera. Come on, you can do it. I know you can. There we go. The same quality weathering and detail work is present in this sword also. Looks good. It's also nice and light with a little bit of bend to it. I don't feel like this is an easily broken accessory. It looks wonderful. Honestly, I'm not going to display the figure using the sword ever. I'm almost tempted to give it to my Mezco Conan. So we'll see what we do with that. Here's the shield. Shield has some battle marks. It looks like he used it to fend off some kind of wild animal attack. That looks great. You can see how he holds it on the back there. You're going to pop the hand onto that. Pop this piece around his forearm, and you're good to go. If you prefer your dwarves with a sword and shield, sword and borden. There's the scabbard. Excellent. And then finally, as you can see, I have it slid in here. This piece also fits in nice and tight on the figure. He's going to come with, all right, come on you, pop out. There. Set him up over here. He's going to come with this little throwing axe, which again is always my preferred ranged implement whenever I'm playing as a dwarven barbarian or whatnot. A throwing axe just works well with those characters, and it fits in handily on that backpack. Now this is going to be important, especially when dealing with a figure with a big bulgy beard like this, and that is how well does it move. And I'm pleased to say that it moves exceptionally well. I'm not going to remove this backpack honestly, I'm not going to remove the backpack ever, but for the movement part of this review, I'm not. It really doesn't get in the way at all. It's a pain in the butt to get in there. It's a tiny little slip. I don't know if you might be able to see it there. And you have to slide it through there, that strap there. Pain in the butt to get on. I don't want to go through that again. What's awesome is that it does open up, and you can use that to store more accessories on the figure. Anyways, back to articulation. The head is going to go left about that far without pushing it too much. The head is going to go right that far. So he can look left and right pretty darn good. That's not a problem. It's not really going to go back at all. That ponytail will start pushing on the backpack, but you can get some look up to him still from the hips and the torso. It is going to not look down much either. Again, that's okay. There's not too much out there that's shorter than a dwarf. The arms are both going to pop out to the side, allowing him to T-pose pretty well. This rubber piece right here, that chainmail collar, that gets out of the way just fine. No big deal. The arms are going to come up about that far, which is hindered more by that rubber chainmail collar, but you can get more out of that from the elbows. So if you want him throwing a punch at somebody right in front of him, kapow, he can do that just fine. There is a swivel at the top and bottom of that elbow joint, giving you all the rotation you could want, and a nice double bend in those elbows, which is gonna let you get to about 45 degrees, a little over 90 with that dwarf. All right, and the wrists are gonna be on a, there we go, just pop that off for you. That part is going to hinge, giving you a good range of motion, and where it inserts, that's gonna swivel, giving you even more articulation. When I first got into collecting again, especially this lower end stuff, it was with a Mythic Legions dwarf, which I don't have anymore. It was orange steelhide, and that was a phenomenal dwarf, but I will say this articulation is going to blow that out of the water. So I'm stoked to have this on the shelf. There's not really anything in that torso there. The legs will kick up about that far, and they'll want to go out to the side a little bit. That's no big deal. Pushing it forward about that far with a solid single jointed bend in the knee. So if you want to get him in a sort of wider fighting stance, you'll be able to do that. Also, thanks to these phenomenal ankles, which have plenty of pivot and plenty of forward and back. So I'm going to get that guy in a squatty stance. We'll pretend he's holding his warhammer real quick, and boom. Super simple to articulate, and just like that, he is all ready for some combat. Okay, so here's Elkhorn all posed up once again, and what I'm going to do now is get some other action figures next to him so you can see how great they all look together. Let's move Elkhorn a little more front and center. And I'm gonna get up over here and we will bring in our orc, who he's probably going to share the most similarities with in terms of body characteristics, as well as stature. Although it does seem like he stands a hair taller. Yep, I think he does. That looks great. We will put Snag back away. This is an excellent figure, by the way. They all are. I suggest you buy them all. But here is Strongheart, our noble paladin. You can see the scaling is great with those two guys as well. Strongheart, looking phenomenal. And I know this guy, if you can't find him anywhere, did just get a re-release announced in classic colors. So no worries if you're having a hard time finding them. Let's get a couple more villains. Here is War Duke and Grim Sword. The first two figures released in this line. I was still kind of iffy on this line back when these two came out, but it was Strongheart that really sold me on everything and convinced me that I was going to need to complete it. Grim Sword standing the tallest, especially next to our little dwarf here. Check him out. Need to adjust the camera. There we go. Okay, and now let's just get Strongheart back in there in the back, because we finally have some more good guys in this line, and our noble paladin won't be all alone anymore on his adventures. There we go. Now I'm going to bring in some figures from other lines so that we can compare how well they scale together. The first one I'm going to do is that Storm Collectibles Golden Axe right there. And you can see these two scale pretty close together. This figure is maybe a little bit large to be a dwarf. I originally got it to go with Mythic Legions, and we'll see why that wasn't too good of a choice here in a second. But he's just a little bit taller than Elkhorn. I think I'll still be able to keep this guy on display with the rest of my D&D characters. Next, let's bring in that Mythic Legions. So you can sort of just see from left to right, shortest dwarf to tallest dwarf. Although, these guys don't look as out of scale with one another as I thought they would. You know, you might be able to put Elkhorn in with your Mythic Legions dwarfs if you don't have another D&D display going on. In my mind's eye, I just kind of thought that the Mythic Legions ones were just smaller, but I could be wrong about that. They're pretty comparable. That said, overall proportions on this Elkhorn figure are definitely bigger than this Torgon Redfin and the Mythic Legions dwarfs in general. Let's get a little back-to-back action there. But no, in terms of just raw height, they're really close to each other. All right, let's put Torgen Redfin back and get our adventuring party back in order. There we go. All right, so that's probably going to wrap this up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be revisiting this kind of action figure anytime soon on the channel. And once again, I apologize for being in a different location today with very different lighting as well. That is going to affect the overall quality of the review, but I'll be back to my regular location for the next review for sure. But I just could not wait to take a look at this figure. It's awesome. Neca and their D&D line is the best thing you're going to find right now in a Target, hands down. The only other items that I think have been produced that are close to this quality in this line are maybe Neca's movie TMNT. Those are pretty good. And Neca's Part 7 Jason Voorhees. Those have all been excellent releases that have left me flabbergasted, and this is no different. So I'm excited to keep on collecting this line. I'll be a completionist for sure. Hopefully even a couple of 100 figures down the road. If Neca keeps producing them, I'll keep buying them. Probably not in different colorways, but every time we get a new character, I'll be right there. Anyways, you guys, if you have any questions or if there's anything that I've left unanswered in this review, please feel free to get at me in the comments. If you're curious about this line in general, go for it. They are excellent figures, and you're not breaking the bank to find them either. And that's going to do it. Stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on collecting, YouTube. Nerdy Narwhal, out.